welcome to the Real Estate Mogul MD podcast. Thanks for tuning in and taking control of your financial future. This is a show where we not only motivate and inspire, we give you actionable, real-world experience to help you live life by design. You'll hear journeys and stories from other physicians, investors, coaches, consultants, and entrepreneurs. And now, here's your host, Brett Riggins.
Have you ever considered getting into real estate, specifically multifamily and syndications? And if you're like me, and probably like a lot of other people, you're seeing that there are tons of opportunities, tons of people doing syndications. Who is it that you should trust? Who should you start working with? Well, what I suggest is expanding your association and finding those people who have been through what you're looking to do. So today's guest is just that. She's bridging the gap between healthcare professionals and real estate professionals. She's done what a lot of you want to do. So stick around, hear her journey, and figure out where you can start. That's the beginning. Taking action, learning what you need to do, and go from being a standby partner to a limited partner to even a general partner. Today's guest is an ER physician based out of Nashville, Tennessee, and the founder and CEO of Pheenyx Capital Investment. Everybody, please welcome Nkem Ezeamama. So here to shake the world up is Nkem. And, just for the listeners out there today, we actually record these on Zoom. And whenever we start recording an episode, it's always lovely to see somebody's energy when they come in the virtual room, right? So here comes Nkem, and she comes in upside down, huh? How about that? Hello, and welcome to the show.
Why, thank you so much. It just shows that I struggle with technology a little bit, and I was playing around with different backgrounds, and I didn't unflip myself. So I pressed start, and I was definitely upside down.
Truly turning the industry upside down. Absolutely. It was awesome. But the beauty, it comes in, no matter what it is, the energy still comes through. So it's a pleasure to have you here today. And we're excited to learn more about you and your journey, Nkem. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. And these conversations they build relationship. They just grow you as a person. So the more that I do, the more excited I am because I truly get to meet people. You get to hear my story and I get to hear yours. And it just makes for like a beautiful industry.
Absolutely. And from the get-go, just so the listeners know out there, you are a physician and you are a real estate investor. So let's take those two separately. And first, let's talk a little bit about medicine and your journey. So currently an ER physician, right? Emergency medicine physician. Where did that start? And where are you at with it now?
Okay, so that's a really good question. From a young age, I was smart. I knew that I wanted to be a doctor. I can't remember the exact. I think it probably was in high school. I started school in Nigeria. I'm from Nigeria, and then I moved to the U.S. And at some point, I knew that medicine was the path. I didn't know exactly how it would go, and I didn't know that I would end up in the emergency department. But I started at University of Florida, go Gators. And then I did med school at George Washington University in D.C. And I was so grateful to join that community and be trained there, at least start my medical training. And then I did my emergency medicine training in Charlotte, North Carolina. And honestly, from the get-go, I always felt like my passion was to help others. But as I tried to figure out what that would look like, I realized that I loved the hustle and bustle of the emergency department. It was chaotic to some people, but to me, it was controlled chaos. Like I felt like I could meet people at the time of like desperate need and feel like I could really impact their lives. And so it was not knowing what would come in through the front door, but feeling like every day I was equipped to be able to take care of them. And nothing surprises me. If I tell you the stories, we would not leave here today. So that's just kind of been my journey. But I know that like for me, it truly was about impacting lives. And I felt that I could do that in the emergency department.
Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective too, because it is exactly in the moment of desperate need, like, and that controlled chaos thing is insane. So we were in a car accident. It's been about 12 weeks ago or so, 14 weeks ago. And seeing the first responders being in those scenes of absolute chaos. And it was just that way. I have two young children and my wife, and all three went separate. There was three different ambulances, and it was crazy. And then once you get into the emergency room, it starts to collect a little bit, right? The chaos starts to simplify, but around me, like in that particular instance, when you're telling the stories, like it's looking around me and like what's going on across the hall. And it was very interesting. And like for me, once the physicians come in, I can then calm down and collect. And that ability to connect with them and speak with them is very interesting. And almost slow the physicians down just for a second too, because I mean, you may have a different opinion on this, but it's go, 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 right? And controlling. So if you get the chance just to stop and connect with the people, it's really important. But the chaos, oh my goodness, the stories, just while we were there, I mean, in the 3-4 hours we were there, it's almost like you could write a book just about that.
Oh, 100%. I tell you, like, when we come together and we talk about the stories, and sometimes you can't talk about it except for the people who experience it with you, but nobody else would believe the stories. And you are right. It's connecting with people. It's realizing that, like, I can go from a room, that is, I'm consoling a family member who just lost their loved one, to going into another room and playing with a little 2-year-old who has a tiny, earache, to taking care of an elderly woman who has no one else at home and who just wants to tell me some stories about growing up. And so it's like, you have to truly meet people at their point of need, wherever they are. And it's almost like you're a different person in every room that you walk in, because you also still need to connect with people. So it's interesting. It's life-changing almost.
Yeah. And I'm sure in those moments too, like the whole time thing, it probably doesn't exist for the most part. Like when you're in the moment, in practicing, helping people, like you're in the flow, that's when time is really irrelevant, right?
Yep. It's true.
Easy come and easy go. So, Florida, Charlotte, and now you're in Nashville.
Yes.
So somewhere along the lines, real estate picked up. So that was the medical journey. Tell us a little bit about your journey in real estate.
Okay. This is so interesting, and I'm so grateful. Like, it makes me, I can say today that I'm a more complete person because of this. So I told you about medicine, but what I didn't tell you about is that in medicine, which is expected, we're taught to be the best clinicians. We're taught to be the best of what we do. And so because of that, we only focus on medicine, but nobody teaches us about investing. Nobody teaches us about financial literacy. Nobody teaches us about what to do the second you walk out of, the second you're done with training. You have to figure out all these other things on your own. And that was really important for me. But more than anything, it kicked into high gear during the pandemic. And in the pandemic, for a lot of people, they went through loss. But for us in the ER, it was more than that. It was grief, loss. Some of us lost our jobs. Some of us had to get second jobs because we just, like, our hours were cut, our wages were cut. It was in that season that I realized that I needed to figure out how to diversify my wealth. I needed to learn about investing. I needed to figure out other ways to grow wealth so that I could do medicine passionately and not worry about it being a means to an end. And that's what, and if you talk to more physicians and more clinicians, you realize that we walk a tightrope in that we are, like I said, we're excellent clinicians, but we really don't know how to manage money. And so we have, we're high income earners, but what do we do with our finances? And that's really when real estate investing kicked into gear for me. I started investing passively. I got into deal after deal after deal. And I realized that the more I did it, the more I learned so much. And I saw the gap. I saw the gap between where we were, where we needed to be as clinicians, as healthcare professionals. And so I took that upon myself to learn as much as I could. Like I devoured books, podcasts. I went to networking events. I joined masterminds. And the more I learned, the more I realized that the people around me, my colleagues, friends, family members also needed to know this information. And so for me, I took it upon myself that I would bridge the gap between where we were as healthcare professionals or where we needed to be, which were more rounded individuals, people who could manage their investments, people who could then know how to invest passively while they still got to do what they loved in the ER. And so that's how I built Pheenyx Capital Investment as a way to really help healthcare professionals or even professionals in general, both in and out of the healthcare field, really grow their wealth and do it passively while they build generational wealth. Well, like to truly build passive income as they built generational wealth while they still got to do what they loved. So that was really how real estate investing came into play. It was at a time of need, and then it just grew into something amazing. And with that came this entrepreneurial side of me that I did not know existed, but I knew that I loved it. With it came a level of growth. With it came just this eagerness to develop myself personally as an individual and figure out a way that I could give value to others. And so that was medicine, that was real estate investing, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
So we talk about this a lot, and this idea that there is a hole or a piece of the education that's not there.
Yes.
And it's, like I say, we talk about it a lot. So it comes down to financial literacy, investing, real estate in general, those three big pieces. And I've had a lot of conversations about how do we fit that into the career education, the education career. And Kim, I look back and when I first learned about real estate, I was almost frustrated. I was like, why didn't somebody show me this earlier? Why didn't somebody show this earlier? Yes. But then it always bounces back, and Kim was like, maybe somebody did. Maybe I wasn't looking, right? So the question is when and how can we implement this? And I was just speaking yesterday about this, like planting the seed somewhere along this journey, even in high school or, somewhere earlier on, to just have that seed planted. Because when you say, you say it right, the diversifying that income just in case, then it allows you to do what you are passionate about because you want to, not because you need to.
Yes. And you're right. And so we're doing a better job now than we were before in that, even like residents, when they just start fresh, when they're done with medical school, we start including it in the curriculum a little bit in the beginning. So it's like, well, let's talk about 401k. Let's talk about stocks. Let's talk about diversifying. Let's talk about investing. So it's, as opposed to before, you really had to learn it on your own. I feel like we're doing a better job. It's not formal education, which I really think it needs to be. It's not formal yet, but I know that now the people who are interested, like you and I, and some of my other colleagues are taking the step that needs to be taken in order to teach the younger generation. Because truly, Brett, I don't think it's that you weren't listening. I just think that it wasn't there that much. And you had to, if it was something that you were passionate about, you were interested in, you had to figure it out on your own. Or better yet, like if you had a parent or a sibling, or someone in the space who you knew this existed, then you could ask for books, you could reach out to them. But for a lot of us who don't know any of this, like it truly is one, drinking from a fire hose, but it's knowing that this is so necessary and that we need to do it. So I realize that, that saying that it's not like the best time to start is now. So there's no point looking back and being like, I should have, because there's nothing I can do about that. But I am doing what I need to do right now, which is talking about it, which is teaching about it, which is like getting on, podcasts like this to spread the word, to let people know that this truly is a way to diversify wealth. This is truly a way to build what you have really, and at the crux of it is that you do this so that you can do what you love, and you can do it on your own time. You can do it on your own terms. You get to buy back those freedoms that are almost taken away from you because you're doing something that you love so much and you're so passionate about, but you don't get to do all the other things. And so that's the big message of what I'm trying to share.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this piece of when and how is this curiosity formed, because that's the beginning of it all, right? This curiosity and just like you're saying, having these conversations, going to the meetups, everything that you did, devouring books, which is so fascinating, Nkem, because if you think about it, we love real estate because it stood the test of time as an asset class, right? And therefore it's got a history. But the education of that has not been there. It's fascinating. So it's there because it stood the test of time, but there's it's not something that we're taught about, right? It's not connected with things. It's like, I wonder why, where was the gap there? And now, then these days in Kim, the speed of information is fascinating. And when we started, the first time I bought a house, there wasn't, I mean, YouTube may have been around, but I may not even have had internet at that time, so I don't know, it's like you couldn't go on there or follow somebody on Instagram. When we were doing it was learned by mistake. It was learned by who's around you. And they just, not looking back. You can learn from the past, but don't get stuck in the past. Right. So now I'm only looking back through my experiences in the past, trying to figure out, hey, how can we help people in the future? Because the both of us agree on this, that real estate is the answer. Financial literacy is the answer. How can we make these changes and now leverage the speed of information to our advantage?
That's true. Completely agree. And we're doing the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we've got this point. Okay. We all agree that this is an asset class that is remarkable, no matter what your specific class may be. Surrounding yourself with the right people is really important. Your journey in real estate. So I know that I believe you're in commercial real estate now. What was your first deal? You said you were getting deal and deal after deal after deal. Well, tell us a little bit about the first deal, and then where did they progress from there?
Oh, this was a really good one. And I know that a lot of people can relate to this. And I don't know if it's because I'm a physician or if it's because I'm a woman, but I was very risk averse. Like I felt like the money in the bank, which I can say this now and laugh about it, but I just felt like my money in the bank was safer and that as opposed to taking a risk. And so my first deal, I did not jump into it. I stood on the sidelines for a really long time because I didn't have proof of concept. I was like, well, I don't get it. I don't understand it. Like, how is this working? And so for me personally, and I'm different from other people, I know there are a lot of people who would have just jumped in, but I did the research. I learned, I figured out who the operators were. I figured out how they were running their deal. I asked a ton of questions, as a way, because I was educating myself, because I didn't think that eventually I would become an active investor and really educate investors and bring investors alongside this amazing journey with me. And so I initially started as a passive investor. And I think for a lot of people starting out, I think that is the best thing to do, because you learn, you invest your money and then you learn and you see the ins and outs of it. You see the inner workings. You start looking at financials. You start looking at, rental statements. You just start looking at how the business is going. You could even go check out your property that you invested in. And so for me, the first one was very slow. I waited and waited, and a deal passed me by. I waited until I was like, okay, I'm ready to jump in. And I'm so glad I did, because I saw firsthand, I'll say it again, I got proof of concept. I saw, my money working for me while I got to do other things. And so the second one was a lot easier. The third one was a lot easier. But I felt that for me, starting out as a passive investor, I was able to really learn. As a limited partner, I just stood back and I watched and I learned and I saw how things were done. And I saw, the the power of property management. I saw just everything, how it worked. Looking back, I knew that I would not be able to make any decisions, and I was fine with that from the beginning. But that was my initial first investment. And I till today, and that investment is doing fantastic. And so and for me, I was lucky. It was a great first one. It's one that I got to learn. It's one that opened the door to understand, that opened the door for me to understand multifamily real estate investing, commercial real estate investing. And it was also like another bucket stream for me of income. So when I talked about diversification earlier, I'm a big proponent of 401k and stocks. I think that it makes me a fuller individual, and it's really truly how to build wealth. And so this was like that new part for me that I got to learn, I got to enjoy, and I realized truly the power of real estate investing. I understood the power of like appreciation and all the tax savings that came with it, and then just the building passive income through cash flow. That's why I felt like this was it for me. And so transitioning from the passive to the active side was a no-brainer. And I just felt like the biggest thing for me was, how can I educate others? How can I bring others along this journey with me? Because I found something amazing and I needed to share it with my other colleagues and other professionals.
And the path to this, and in the commercial and the syndication world, so you started here and you're staying here. You've got diversified in other types of asset classes. But this class, I think when you say it, I agree with you, and I would echo that journey. You come in as an LP, a limited partner. Actually, before you had your proof of concept, you weren't even a limited partner. You were like let's call it a SBP, a standby partner. You were like watching that one go by, you learning, right? So that's the first round. And then becoming a limited partner, where you have access to the team, you have access to the financials. I'm sure you likely have signed non-disclosure agreements, so you can see the inner workings of these deals. You see the operators, you see the general partner, meet a sponsor, certain occasions like that. So you're learning the inner makings of this deal. And as you grow into this process, you're learning, like you say, you're seeing rent rolls, you're seeing how underwriting's going, you're seeing the communication. You can actually even see the property if you're close as well too. You find the right group of people in Nkem, and you can see what you need to see to grow yourself. And then, rolling into a general partner kind of platform. And along with the general partner, there's typically going to be more stress and more responsibility, but there's more value there as well too, with what you get out of the deal. Because at that point, you actually have control of the asset, right? And
that's very.
Yeah. The now with the company Pheenyx Capital Investment, you are the GP on these deals. Is that where you're at now?
That is correct. Yes, that is correct.
And we are also told, and kind of learned this along the way too, that real estate is a relationship business. And I see that you have built, let's see, you've got 2 partners there, it looks like, in that firm. And I mean, just being able to then leverage their years of experience, leverage their personalities, their gifts to now offer these opportunities to other physicians, right? And you're working with other physicians to allow that process, right? To invite them in as LPs. So tell us a little bit about what that would look like for, the physicians that you connect with, that you work with, in Pheenyx Capital Investments.
So it has been, Brett, a breath of fresh air, because I have come to learn that physicians, they have the resources and they're looking for access. And I said earlier that was my job, which was to bridge the gap. And that's where Pheenyx Capital Investment came in. And so I have had really amazing conversations with a lot of physician investors and as well as other healthcare professionals about the need to do this. And so they are excited, they're eager, they're waiting, because the more they learn, the more they realize, yes, I don't want to spend every waking moment in the hospital. I don't want to spend every waking moment. I want to do what I love because that's my passion, but I also want to be able to take care of my family. I want to build wealth for generations to come. And so they understand the need to diversify and to have multiple streams of income, hopefully more passive. But so that's where a lot in the beginning has been education. It's been empowering them to realize they can follow their passion, do what they love, and still do this. And that's where it's been really, honestly, it's been enlightening. And the conversations have been engaging. They've been very growth forward because they understand, like I said, and I'll say it again, they understand this path. And it's just like, okay, now we, as Pheenyx Capital, we are looking and we're doing the due diligence to find the right deal because that's important because more than anything, I value my investors. And so I want to make sure that we are in the right deal, that we have the structures in place, so that they can feel confident in what we're doing and where we're going. They see our vision, our values, our goals, and that aligns with them. And that's the most important thing for me in this journey and becoming a general partner. But I have to say that I'm so thrilled to have the conversations. I'm so thrilled to show up, in spaces that are filled with healthcare professionals and to be like, hey guys, physicians, nurses, doctors, whatever it is, whoever it is. And it's saying that like I said, we have the resources and now we have the access. It's not limited to only this group or only that group. It's like we can come into this playing field and we're equal. So that has been to me the most enjoyable aspect of this.
And with your experience, just being able to connect with the curious, right? With those who are, I've been thinking about this, those who are the SBPs, right? You're able to connect with them and help hold their hand, air quotes there for the listeners, to get them into that LP kind of role with you and your team. So I'm sure that there's just a lot of value that you can exchange going through this process yourself, being in medicine yourself, having these same, these risk adverse, because let's get serious. A lot of physicians are risk adverse by training, right? I can't just go out there and this may work. You want to give it a shot? You have two arms, right? There's always the other one that you could work with, right? So there's reasons behind that risk adverse piece. It matches the personality type, matches the years and years of training. So your experience to kind of overcome that, and share this with other physicians coming through, I think that's remarkable.
You are absolutely right. And when you get into, and I've known this and now it makes 1,000% sense to me, is that, in medicine, we are afraid to take risks and we're afraid to make mistakes as expected because lives are at stake. The mistakes are more severe, but in entrepreneurship, it's okay. You can take a leap. You can make mistakes and they're seen more as, as building blocks to success. So it's like, okay, I did that. I'm not doing that again, but I'm stronger for that. I'm better for that. I've grown because of that. That's the mindset that you embark upon in this journey. And so you are absolutely right in saying that we as physicians are very risk adverse. And as expected, but in the space, you learn so much more. You can move so much more when you realize that it's okay to take risks. And they're not, they're calculated risks, but they're still risks. But you do that so that you can grow, so that you can build, so that you can become a better person.
And when you are raising capital or you're speaking with physicians, tell me a little bit about what it's like for a physician coming in. Do they have to be an accredited investor? Right? Am I saying that properly? Are there certain?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. So somebody coming in, say that there's a physician out there listening who is, just on the front side of this standby partner. They want to chat with Nkem and they want to learn a little bit more about the process. What are the finances, the numbers behind that point when it's all right, let's roll?
Okay. So being an accredited investor, so a lot of the deals that we do, you have to be an accredited investor, not all the deals. So we will let you know exactly the type of deal that we're embarking upon. But to be an accredited investor means that you individually, you earn and you make more than $200,000 a year. And you've made that for the past 2 years, or you and your spouse together make over $300,000. As well as having a net worth of greater than $1 million, and that excludes your primary residence. So those two things qualify you to be an accredited investor, and that you are able to invest in some of these deals as a limited partner.
Very interesting. And the piece of that's almost entertaining for me, fascinating, is when you say net worth, and it's like net worth comes from a personal financial statement. And it almost, to me, sometimes those things feel like they could be subjective. What do you think about that?
It's true. You're right, because, it's like, it's part of the rules. So we go with it, but you're right, because you're like, well, how did I get there? How am I growing? What is encompassed in that? But the more, I think that starting out, that number seems astronomical. But the more you start, like I said, the more you start investing more, the more you start diversifying your wealth, it almost seems like it's a number that's easier to attain. And it's still a big number, but it's because it's net worth. It's a little bit of everything that makes you that one person. And that's what I was talking about in the beginning, where I'm like, if you're listening to this early on in your career and you're thinking, how can I do that? How can I build? That number seems big. It starts with starting. And sometimes we stand at that, starting line for a really long time, and we're so afraid to take one step. But when you take one step, honestly, with that comes education, with that comes enlightenment, with that comes empowerment, and with that comes building your network and your network as well. And so you are in circles where it's easier to grow, it's easier to build, and you're learning all the things that you need to do and the steps that you need to take to get there. So I understand why it's there. But I also understand that there are different ways to get to that. But the biggest thing that I can encourage and empower someone listening today is that make a decision, start today, take action. And I think that number will become smaller. You're muted.
Thank you. So many things popping into my mind as I was listening to that, and the financial piece, and that, I will call it the first million. The first million seems difficult, like you mentioned, overwhelming, and it is. And I can tell you, like, once you get there, it's now the point of exchanging zeros, removing commas, because that first piece, once you do take that step, once you said it starts with starting, it's exactly right. You get that curiosity. Your network is your net worth. Your net worth is your network. Like, you get these pieces and you get them rolling. When that next zero you add to that sheet is, it's a whole different journey, So when I break down what I call the PIG, the passive income goal, when we break that down and say, okay, Nkem, where do you want to be in 5 years? Where do you want to be in 10 years? That's going to be a big number. That's when we talk about that and we find this path or this number that aligns with your real why, not because I want more money, right? Money is not the reason. And it's not because I want more time. Time is not the reason. It's what you do with that. It's who you become. It's who you spend those things with. That's your real why. When we align those, we can then reverse engineer that back to today. What do I have to do today to become that person who's talking about moving commas, right? What is moving commas? I'm just trying to pay off my student debt right now, right? But it's so much. And the other thing that made me think of, Nkem, was when you first, if you're not tracking something, if you're not measuring it and tracking it, you have no idea if you're making progress or if you're not. So you might as well just be throwing it up, throw your pennies into a wishing well. If this is not something for the listeners out there, if you have not completed a personal financial statement, a PFS, that's step one. Because yes, that's, if you don't start somewhere, that may be the start of the start right there. If you don't start somewhere, then you know where you need to go, you know where you can grow from. But putting that together, and you start getting into that and bringing your value into this whole net worth thing, don't get tied up on it. Because when I was reaching for that first million, right, to hit that first, that comma, get that comma in there, I presented it to my father-in-law, and my father-in-law has been a mentor for me for a really long time. He was in the grocery business. And I say he literally made millions with pennies, right? With pennies, this guy made millions. So when I was excited about this net worth thing, I told him, hey, this is great. Look at this. And he's like, go buy me something with that. And he had me pinned, Nkem, because there was nothing but a number on a piece of paper. It was not liquid, right? And that's what that piece where it's like, don't get too tied up into that net worth piece. Know and track, measure everything, right? Test everything, but don't get tied up in that number, that net worth number.
Agreed.
Because cash is beautiful. And when we invest for cash flow, oh, that's when I get the goosebumps. That's when we're talking about the right thing here. And then all these other things are just what we call stackable returns. There's so much other stuff that happens around there. But when that property is cash flowing, it is a beautiful thing. So, Nkem, how can physicians who are listening to this, who have that seed planted, maybe they're going to go out and put together their first personal financial statement. And if for the listeners out there, if you need just a template, you can Google search that stuff. I'm sure you can find something. You can reach out to us. But what should the listeners do who want to speak with Nkem about this going from a standby partner to a limited partner? What's the best way that they could get a hold of you?
This, to me, I will say this, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. This has been such a great journey for me. It's been a journey of growth, personal development. I've met some of the most amazing people on this journey. And so I mean it when I say this, I want to give back. And so if there's someone who is excited and they're like, this is the next step I need to take, I would love to connect with you. I'm very active on LinkedIn. As I build my network, it is a way to just educate. I put out content every day on things that I'm struggling with, whether it's entrepreneurship, whether it's wealth creation or mindset, all those things, and medicine as well. Those things are important to me. And so I put out content on that just to give value. So reach out to me. You can find me there. If you just type my name, it's Nkem Ezeamama, MD, Nkem, last name Ezeamama, MD. You can find me there and we can connect. And also you can go to my website. It's www.phcinvest.com and join our community. And there, we put out newsletters, blogs, just educational content on really the importance of, building generational wealth, the importance of growing, in this area to make you a more complete person. So that's like that, those things tickle me. And so to be able to have that conversation and connect, I'm looking forward to it.
Giving without expectation of return. And there's something that's beautiful that happens when we're at that point in our careers or in life in general. I mean, if somebody can start doing that and not have to learn to do that, it's so beautiful. But I'm sure like me, like most people, the human nature in us, there's something, we talk about mindset a little bit, and even we touched on in the risk adverse piece, there's a lot of mindset that goes into this. And when you see somebody who is out to share that knowledge and give without any expectation of return, there's instantly something that pops up in our mind, like this trust wall pops up, and it's like, okay, what are they trying to get from me? You can't have my email address. You can't call me, what are you trying to sell me? So there's this instant thing that pops up. But I just want to remind everybody that it's like connection is value. So that relationship that you're able to build with someone who has or is doing what you would want to do or want to do in the near future, there's so much value into that. And I say it time and time again, Nkem, is when I can look back over my career and there are these spikes, these exponential spikes in growth as me as a person, as a father, a husband, a leader, an investor. Those happen based off of my connections with other people, learning from their mistakes, learning from their successes. And it's so remarkable. So I was just I say that to encourage the listeners to reach out to Nkem on LinkedIn, because this is definitely one of those things. If you want your world flipped upside down, you get on LinkedIn, you schedule a meeting with Nkem, and you'll know what I'm talking about. No, just pure, genuine. I love it. I love the energy. I love the.
Say one last thing, because it's something that you said, and it was so important. I didn't get here today by myself. I got here today through people. And I realized that if I could go back 20 years or 10 years and say, what's one thing that you need to remember? It's that people matter, and that building successful, solid relationships is the crux of success in the life that you want. And so I just kind of echo what Brett's saying, not about reaching out to me, but really that, like, when you build relationships, like, we'll get far in life, and it's through people. And so I'm so thrilled. All the learning, all the growth, it's come through like linking arms with other people. And so I just wanted to like echo what you said, because I completely agree with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, it makes me happy just thinking about that. And even in the relationships, people will come and go in your life, but the experience and how you grow personally will never leave you, even if somebody else leaves you, right? Even in bad situations, that nobody will ever take that from you. So it's absolutely really important. I have one more question for you, and Nkem, I love this question. If you could go back 10 years, what would you tell yourself? If you could go back, stand next to Nkem and say, hey, psst, listen, what would you say?
I would tell myself, don't be afraid to leap. Don't be afraid to take a chance. It's okay to be uncomfortable, because it's in that you will find growth. It's in that the magic will happen. I would tell myself that take the time to figure out your why and go at it with every passion that you have. I would say that it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes, but do it. And I would tell myself to drown out the noise, that even the people who love you the most, sometimes their advice is not the best. So I would say if there's something in your heart that you want to go after, do it. It doesn't matter. You will be stronger. You will be a better person for it. If you fail, you will have learned the lessons to get you even 10 steps further. That's what I would tell myself. I would just say, rid yourself of fear and just go at this life with everything that you've got, because we only have one life to live. And that's what I'm telling myself now. So I wish I told myself that 10 years ago, but I'm excited with the trajectory that I'm going, as a human. And so that's what I would have told myself. I would have said, people matter. This is a long-term play. Take your time. Know that like the success that you're going to get is not going to be achieved tomorrow. It's look 10 years down the road, and don't be afraid. That's what I would tell myself.
And that's amazing, because watching you say that, I feel like you were talking to yourself now. And as you're saying that, I'm like, Nkem, okay, you just got that chance today, because guess what? In 10 years, Nkem, when you look back or you listen to this recording, guess what? You did just tell yourself that. And I could see you telling yourself that, and that's the path that you're on. That's amazing. And now we get to share this with maybe Nkem 10 years ago, that's, just in that same spot of curiosity or surrounded by people. And what you said there about, the ones you love may not be the ones that you should be taking advice from, because they are not the ones doing what you want to do. Right. So that expanding association, then also limiting association and it can be so challenging. We've talked about this so much. I feel like we could go another hour talking here on that. It's like, that's so hard when it's family and they've nurtured you to this point, and it's to the point now where you can't, that opinion is not what you should base your decisions on in certain things. So that's always a challenge. So, well, thank you so much for your time today. And Kim, it's been an absolute blast from the start. And now that we are right side up, we are focused on the future and, the next 5-10 years. And I so much appreciation for your time. And I'm just so happy to see you. I know that your positive energy, your perspective, your willingness to help others is going to take you a long way. So yes, keep your focus, be patient, long-term solutions with long-term people, persistence, consistency, all of these things are going to align and your path is set, I'm sure. So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it.
Oh, Brett, I loved every second of this. You never know where the conversation is going to go. And I just feel light. I feel empowered to tackle the day. So I'm so glad we did this.
It's awesome. And hopefully the listeners get that same feeling, whether they're in their car, strolling through the hospital, in an office building, working out, whatever you may be doing. We just want to thank you for your time today. And like I always say, thank you for your attention. I hope you never get tired of me saying this, but your attention has so much value, much more than the time itself. And we really appreciate that you've given us your attention today. So if you have any questions for us, you can search in the description here. We'll have the contact information for Nkem, and the website is phcinvest.com, phcinvest.com. If you have any questions, if you want to learn more about whether it's syndication, we can connect you with amazing platforms like this, amazing people. If you have any suggestions for show ideas or any questions about any of the shows, please reach out to us, info@physicianwealthsystems.com. And if you don't mind, stop in and give us a review too. That helps us help other people. That helps the old algorithms pop up and say, hey, where can I learn more about real estate as a physician? Give us a review. We appreciate it. 5-star would be the best. Until next time, thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.